I was elbow deep in the guts of my '98 Camaro, wrestling with a carburetor that had seen better days. The garage was my sanctuary, a place where problems made sense. You diagnose, you fix. It's simple. If only life worked that way. The radio was blasting some classic rock, and for the first time in weeks, I was enjoying myself. No office politics, no client complaints, no Clara nagging me about the oil stains on the concrete. Just me, my tools, and the simple, satisfying logic of machinery. Then came the knock. Not a friendly, neighborly tap. This was sharp, official, the kind that cuts through a Saturday afternoon and leaves a scar. I wiped my hands on a rag that was more grease than fabric and trudged to the door, already annoyed. But it wasn't a Girl Scout or a missionary. It was Officer Bruce Jackson, standing on my porch in the October drizzle, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He was built like a linebacker, but carried himself with the weight of a man who delivers bad news for a living. "Sir," he began, his voice a low, practiced rumble. "Are you Mark Evans?" "Depends who's askin'," I shot back, my default smartass setting kicking in. "But yeah, that's me. What's this about?" He cleared his throat, his eyes holding a mix of sympathy and professional detachment. "Sir, I'm afraid I have some difficult news. Your wife, Clara Evans, was involved in a fatal car accident approximately an hour ago." The words didn't compute. They bounced off into brain like rubber bullets. Fatal accident? Clara! My mind scrambled, trying to solve an equation with no variables. I laughed, a short, bitter, disbelieving sound. "No," I said, shaking my head. "That's impossible. You've got the wrong house, the wrong guy. Clara's upstairs asleep. She had a migraine and went to bed early." The confusion that spread across Officer Jackson's face wasn't the standard denial response. This was genuine. What the hell is this guy talking about? "Sir," he said, slowly, carefully, "we have positive identification. The vehicle was registered to Clara Evans at this address. We found her purse, her driver's license." "You found the wrong purse," I interrupted, already turning toward the stairs. "Come on, I'll show you. She's right upstairs." Jackson followed me, his hand instinctively moving to rest near his service weapon, a detail I should have registered as a giant flashing red warning sign, but I was too busy being right to notice. We climbed the stairs to our bedroom. "Clara, honey," I called out, pushing the door open, "there's a policeman here who thinks you're dead. Come tell him how very much alive you are." The room was dark, curtains drawn against the gray afternoon, but I could see her familiar shape under the covers, her blonde hair fanned across the pillow. "See?" I said triumphantly, reaching for the bedside lamp. "One very much alive." The light clicked on. Officer Jackson's body went rigid. His hand went to his gun, the motion fluid and terrifyingly fast. "Sir," he said, his voice now deadly serious, "step away from the bed, now." "What? Why?" But even as I asked, my brain was catching up to what my eyes were seeing. Something was wrong. The shape was too still, too perfect. "That isn't a person, Mr. Evans," Jackson said, his weapon now partially drawn. "That's a mannequin." My stomach plummeted through the floor. A mannequin, not my wife. A department store dummy, dressed in Clara's pajamas, wearing her jewelry, positioned in our bed with meticulous, sickening detail. For a century-long moment, I just stared. The makeup was perfect. The wig was her exact shade of blonde, right down to the little curl she always got behind her left ear. Someone had gone to incredible, insane lengths to create this illusion. "But why?" I whispered. "Mr. Evans," Jackson's voice cut through my shock, "I'm going to need you to explain what's going on here. Where is your wife?" That's when the cold realization hit me. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a plan, an elaborate, deliberate charade. Someone wanted me to believe Clara was both dead and alive. I thought back to this morning, to Clara kissing me goodbye before I headed to the garage. Her lips had been cold, I remembered now, unusually cold. And her eyes, they'd held something distant, something that looked almost like guilt. "I don't know," I said, and for the first time in my adult life, I meant it completely. I honestly don't know where my wife is. Outside, I could see my neighbor, old Mr. Peterson, pretending to rake leaves while obviously straining to hear every word. The circus was coming to town, and I was the main attraction. Jackson was on his radio, calling for backup and crime scene techs. My house was now a crime scene. My life was a puzzle with half the pieces missing, and I was standing in the middle of it, not knowing if I was the victim, the suspect, or just a prop. The rain kept falling, washing away any evidence outside, and I stood in my bedroom, staring at a fake version of my wife, while the real one was where? Welcome to the worst Saturday of my life. Let me tell you something about mannequins. They're creepy as hell. In a store window, they're part of the landscape. But dress one up in your wife's favorite pajamas, complete with her wedding ring and the tiny scar on her wrist from that baking disaster in 2018, and you're suddenly living in a horror movie. I couldn't stop staring at it. The craftsmanship was insane. Certifiably, straitjacket-worthy insane. Officer Jackson was all business now, his earlier sympathy replaced by cop-mode suspicion. "Mr. Evans," he said, his tone measured, "I need you to walk me through your day. When was the last time you saw your wife, your real wife, alive and moving around?" It should have been an easy question, but when I tried to grasp the memory, it felt slippery. "This morning," I said, the words feeling wrong even as I said them. "She kissed me before I went out to the garage, said she had a headache and was going to lie down. Around 10, maybe 10:30. And how did she seem?" "Off," I admitted, hating how it sounded. "Distracted. She'd been weird lately. Secretive, always on her phone, jumping when it rang. New perfume, new clothes. I figured she was planning a surprise for our anniversary." Jackson's face suggested he was thinking of different kinds of surprises, the kind involving divorce lawyers. "Any marital problems, Mr. Evans? Financial troubles? Anyone who might want to hurt either of you?" Standard questions that hit uncomfortably close to home. Our marriage hadn't been a fairy tale lately. We'd become roommates, coasting on the inertia of 16 years. But hurt us? That seemed extreme. "Nothing that would lead to this," I said, gesturing at the mannequin. As the police swarmed my house, I was told I couldn't stay there. I ended up at a Holiday Inn that smelled of disinfectant and despair, eating takeout and watching news reports about my own life. But rock bottom gives you clarity. Sitting in that crappy room, I finally admitted what my gut had been screaming for months. Something was very wrong, and it wasn't just marital doldrums. So I called my brother. Ben Evans was everything I wasn't, spontaneous, perceptive, and a former cop who now worked as a private investigator. We hadn't talked much lately, mainly because he'd spent our last conversation telling me I was sleepwalking through my life. "Mark," he answered, his voice surprised. "Jesus, I heard about Clara on the news. Are you okay?" "Define okay," I said, staring at a water stain on the ceiling. "My wife is supposedly dead, but there was a mannequin in our bed, and the cops think I'm either a victim or a psycho." "Holy hell," Ben breathed. Even by my standards, that's messed up. Where are you?" "I need your help, Ben. Something's been off with Clara for months. I think this is connected." I told him everything. The late-night calls, the new passwords on her devices, the unexplained absences. "And you never thought to, I don't know, ask her about any of this?" Ben's tone had that familiar little brother superiority. "I trusted her," I said, defensively. "We've been married 16 years. "Mark," he said, and I could hear him shaking his head through the phone. "You're not the trusting type. You're the oblivious type. There's a difference." 3 days later, Ben showed up at my hotel room with a manila folder that felt like it contained the autopsy of my marriage. "Sit down," he said. "You're going to need to." The first photo was a sucker punch. Clara, my wife of 16 years, walking out of a downtown hotel, her hand on the arm of Alex Carter, my business partner and supposed best friend. "Son of a bitch," I whispered. "It gets worse," Ben said, laying out more photos like a dealer in a game of emotional blackmail. Clara and Alex in his car. Clara and Alex having an intimate lunch. Clara and Alex looking at each other with a familiarity that shattered my heart. But the real kicker came next. Photos of Clara meeting with a man I didn't recognize, sliding him a thick envelope. Then another meeting with a severe-looking woman in designer clothes. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice hollow. "The guy is Leo Vance," Ben said, consulting his notes. "A life transition specialist. He helps people disappear. New identities, clean backgrounds, the whole 9 yards. The woman works for a firm that specializes in moving money offshore, making it hard to track." He pulled out printouts of insurance documents, bank statements, business contracts, all photographed from my home office, my private files. "She's been documenting your entire financial life, Mark. Bank accounts, investments, insurance policies. This isn't just about running away with her boyfriend. This is about taking you for everything you're worth." I stared at the evidence, feeling the foundation of my life crumble to dust. Every "I love you," every moment of the past few months had been a lie. "How long?" I asked, my throat tight. "At least 8 months of active planning. But the thing with Alex, probably longer." 8 months. While I was building our future, she was planning its demolition. "So what now?" I asked. "The cops think she's dead. Do I tell them?" "You could," Ben said slowly. "You could be the good citizen, turn it all over. They'd probably get arrested, you'd lose half your assets in a nasty divorce, and your business would tank from the scandal." He leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Or you could let them think their plan is working while you put together a better one." I looked at my brother, at the evidence of my wife's betrayal spread between us, and realized the good, reliable Mark Evans had to die too. "Tell me more," I said, "because they had started this war. The least I could do was finish it." Planning revenge, I discovered, is a meticulous process. The beauty of Clara and Alex's plan was its fatal flaw. It relied on me being the same trusting, oblivious husband I'd always been. Ben and I became architects of their downfall. The plan was simple in its elegance. If Clara wanted to be dead, I would help her. But her new life wouldn't be the one she was expecting. First, I needed a body. That's where Sarah Jennings came in, a former military contact who owed me a favor bigger than this. She was a woman of unique skills and moral flexibility. "You want me to what?" Sarah asked when I called, amusement clear in her voice. "Play dead," I repeated. "One very convincing car accident. You'll be the body they find. My actual wife will be otherwise occupied." There was a pause, then her characteristic laugh. "This is the most screwed up favor anyone's ever asked me. I love it. When do we start?" While Sarah handled the theatricals, I worked on home renovations. The basement, which Clara always hated, became her new home. Soundproofed, comfortable, and utterly inescapable. A subterranean bed and breakfast with a permanent guest. The masterstroke was flipping Leo Vance, their life transition specialist. Turns out Mr. Vance had some unresolved issues with the IRS. A few anonymous tips made him very eager to discuss new employment opportunities. "Your wife and her boyfriend are accelerating the timeline," Vance told me at a hushed meeting in a roadside diner. "They think you're getting suspicious. The accident is set for Saturday on Route 116. Clara will be driving to visit her sister." I almost laughed. Clara's sister lived in Florida, and they hadn't spoken in years. After the accident, Vance continued, I'm supposed to pick up the real package at a rendezvous point 5 miles away. Then it's new identities and a one-way trip to Belize, where your partner has been setting up offshore accounts. Not anymore, I said, sliding him a new envelope, thick with cash. Here's what's actually going to happen. Saturday arrived, gray and drizzly. Perfect for a tragedy. The call came at 2:47 p.m. Officer Jackson's voice was somber. I played my part, the shocked, grieving husband, to perfection. Meanwhile, Vance picked up a very different package. Instead of a conscious, eager Clara, he found her unconscious, courtesy of Sarah's pharmaceutical expertise. By the time my wife woke up, she was already delivered to her new basement suite. The symmetry was beautiful. Clara had wanted to disappear, to erase herself from my life. Mission accomplished. The funeral was a closed casket affair. I received casseroles and sympathy from the entire neighborhood, the poor grieving widower. If they only knew that my dead wife was sitting in my basement watching her own memorial service on a closed-circuit feed. The game had begun, and for the first time in months, I was holding all the cards. There's a deep satisfaction in watching someone's carefully constructed world collapse. Clara woke up in her new accommodations 4 hours after her death. The first thing she did was call out for Alex. It told me everything I needed to know. When her eyes focused on her surroundings, the windowless room, the reinforced door, the confusion on her face was priceless. "Good evening, Clara," I said through the intercom. "I hope you slept well." Her head snapped up. "Mark, what is this? Where am I?" "You're exactly where you wanted to be," I replied, switching on the newsfeed of her death. Dead to the world. Starting fresh. Congratulations. I let her watch the reports, the interviews with grieving neighbors. "Your funeral is on Thursday. I think you'll approve of the flowers." "This is insane," she yelled, pounding on the walls. "You can't keep me here. Alex will—" "Alex will what?" I interrupted. "Alex thinks you're dead. That was your plan. The only difference is, instead of Belize, you're here." I switched the feed to show Alex's apartment. He was pacing, frantically calling Vance, his face a mask of panic. Not concern for her, but panic for himself. "Take a good look, Clara," I said. "That's the man you chose. Watch how he cares for your well-being." He was calling his lawyer, his accountant, anyone who could help him salvage the money. Not once did he express worry about her. "You were just a tool," I said. "And now, the tool is broken." I let her watch for days. Watch as Alex's panic grew. Watch as the man she betrayed everything for revealed his true, cowardly colors. Meanwhile, I dealt with Alex. With Ben's help, we leaked just enough information to spark a very real federal investigation into the offshore accounts he'd been skimming into. His panic made him sloppy, moving money in ways that violated a dozen banking laws. The fictional frame-up was becoming a very real prosecution. On a Wednesday morning, real federal agents stormed our office. I watched from my window as they arrested Alex, reading him his rights while his colleagues looked on in horror. "Mark," he yelled as they led him away, "you have to help me. This is a mistake." I stepped into the hallway, the picture of shocked concern. "Alex, what's going on?" "It's the offshore accounts," he babbled, confessing in front of everyone. "It's a misunderstanding." One of the agents looked at me. "Sir, we'll need to speak with you as well, given your partnership." "Of course," I said, the model citizen. "Whatever you need." That afternoon, I went downstairs to share the news with Clara. I played the footage of Alex's arrest, the news reports speculating about a 25-year sentence. "They're going to want a deal," a federal agent said on screen. "Someone facing these charges usually has a lot to say about their accomplices." I looked at Clara. She understood. Alex would roll over on everyone, including her. But she was dead. The perfect, unreachable scapegoat. "For the first time," I said quietly, "you're useful to him. As a ghost to blame." She finally broke.
The sobs were not of self-pity, but of true, devastating understanding. "Why?" she whispered, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Why this instead of just divorcing me?" "Because divorce is civilized," I said. "It implies we were two adults who grew apart." "But you didn't want to leave me, Clara. You wanted to erase me. So, I'm returning the favor." 2 weeks later, she asked to see me face to face. She looked hollowed out, the polished veneer of her old life stripped away. "I have a choice for you," I told her. "Option 1, you stay dead, permanently. You live here, comfortably, but forgotten. Option 2, I help you disappear for real. A new identity, enough money to start over somewhere far away. But you lose everything. Your name, your history, your daughter." The mention of our daughter, Lily, shattered what was left of her. "Lily," she choked out. "How is she?"
She's strong. She's handling it. I paused. If you choose option 2, if you agree to never contact us again, I'll make sure you get pictures, updates, enough to know she's happy. It was a choice between two prisons, one of concrete, one of exile. "I want to see my daughter grow up," she whispered, broken, "even if it's just in pictures." "Then it's settled," I said. "Tomorrow you become someone else. Clara Evans stays buried." I paused at the door. "For what it's worth," I said, "I'm sorry it came to this." "So am I," she replied. "So am I." 3 months after Clara Evans was buried, a woman named Karen Miller started working at a small hardware store in a town in Oregon. She was quiet, modest, and grateful for her unremarkable life. I rebuilt my life. The business thrived without Alex. Lily flourished at college. The insurance money went into a trust for her future. And every month, I mailed an envelope to a P.O. box. Photographs of Lily, her triumphs, her happiness. Never anything traceable, just proof that the daughter she'd sacrificed was thriving. Karen Miller lived her invisible life. She never searched for us again. 5 years passed. I stood in a university auditorium, watching Lily graduate, my heart swollen with pride. She had become an incredible young woman. And then I saw her, in the back, wearing sunglasses and a hat. Older, thinner, but unmistakably Clara. Karen Miller had broken the rules. Our eyes met across the crowd. I saw the tears on her cheeks. I could have had her removed, arrested. I could have destroyed her completely. Instead, I gave a single, almost imperceptible nod, an acknowledgement, a permission, a final act of control dressed as mercy. She mouthed, "Thank you," and disappeared into the crowd. Later, Lily hugged me. "I wish Mom could have been here," she said. "She would have been so proud." She would have, I agreed, and for the first time, I felt no bitterness. A few days later, a text came from an unknown number. "Thank you." I deleted it, smiling. Justice, I had learned, wasn't always about punishment. It was about balance. Clara lived with the consequences of her choices every single day. She paid the price in the quiet agony of exile. And I had won. I had my life, my daughter, my future. Sometimes the most perfect revenge is simply living well, while your enemies live with the ghosts of what they threw away. The scales had finally settled, and they were exactly where they belonged.